Hi everybody, Ryan Ballengee with Golf News Net here. Thanks for coming back to check out our channel once again. We are here in the indoor hitting bay at my home club, Argyle Country Club. And today we're going to do a couple different rounds of club testing. And we start our testing today actually with a set of irons from a company that you probably have heard of if you've played golf longer than 20 years, longer than 15 years, maybe even 10 years. But they're a company that's back in the space in the UK, and they've made their way back to the United States. And I'm excited to kind of try these irons out. So they're from Lynx. Remember Lynx? Boom Boom used them. Freddie Couples loved bashing Lynx irons and woods. I loved Lynx irons. I never bought them, but I always hit them and always loved the way they felt. Just didn't have the money to buy them. And so they've come back to the United States with a bunch of different iron sets. They're coming out with a new driver with a face that you can literally take off and replace on a driver. It's going to be fascinating once it comes out in the summertime. But today we're talking about these irons, these VT irons. And what I'm really interested to try out with these is a couple of different things. One, this is a hollow body construction iron. So while it does look like an iron that's a classic blade, it's hollow in there. It's two pieces, hollow steel body, then you've got a face insert. And then it just has a nice kind of premium look to it. But the other part that I really want to try out with this is a new shaft. So I've used KBS Tour shafts in my irons in the past. I've used Project X. I've used Dynamic Gold. All of those things have been great for me, but I've never used an X Flex in an iron shaft. So this is going to be a first today. We're using the KBS Tour 130X. I don't typically do that, usually in the 110, in that kind of range in a steel iron shaft, but we're going to give it a try. The idea is that with the KBS Tour, you kind of promote a little bit of a more mid-ball flight. I have a high ball flight, so we'll see that on the launch monitor a little bit. But we're going to mess around with these. We've got 4 clubs in these Lynx VTs. We have a pitching wedge, 8-iron, 6-iron, 4-iron, which is pretty convenient because that's usually what we test with. So we're going to hit some shots, and we'll see how it goes. Let's give it a try. Beautiful look, a little bit compact from toe to heel, little bit of offset, not a whole lot, a little bit thick on the top line, probably for some people's taste if you're particularly prejudiced against the thick top line. I am not. I really just wanted the ball to go straight more than anything else. I wanted to go the proper distance that I'd like to see. But again, standing over it, not much offset, can lay it open, and it feels pretty compact. So it feels like you're swinging a player's club, but you know you're getting a lot of the benefits of modern technology. Checking in with the 6-iron. Again, really relatively thin in the sole. I like that a lot. And again, setting up with minimal offset, not quite as thick feeling here. Obviously, you start to work with less and less material, but not as thick feeling overall. And then once you get to the 4-iron, again, it almost feels like you're swinging one of those iron or hybrid replacements, those iron replacements. Pretty thin overall for the sole once again. And then you kind of look at the way it sits on the top line. Not much offset. Thick enough. I mean, it feels like you're swinging, again, iron replacement. So you feel like you can kind of get the ball up in the air and have that good-looking ball flight to maybe get you to a par 5 and 2 or one of those longer par 4s and 2. All right, let's try the 8-iron here. 8-iron looks a little thick on that top line for me. It is more compact from toe to heel than maybe I would typically swing these days because I just don't play as much. But I do like the look of it. It is a little thick again. Offset not bad. There really shouldn't be much of an 8-iron whatsoever. I like that. So let's give him a couple swings. Solid. It does feel like you can work these. I don't feel like I'm handcuffed. I can turn it over. I can do what I need to do with it. The top line really doesn't bother me. I mean, the sole is actually pretty thin. It's pretty small for a hollow body, a game improvement type iron. So that's really what matters more to me, is that I can use the sole to my benefit than what I'm looking at over top. All right, let's take a couple whips with the 6 iron. Again, doesn't look too offset, a little offset, but it does lay pretty open when I want it square, which I like. All right, so we're gonna load up on the 4 iron here. And this really has a cool look to it. It reminds me a lot of the hybrid 2 iron that I love from Srixon Golf that I will use until it busts apart. It's not too offset, so it should inspire a little bit of confidence, but not too much. Gotta go after this one a little bit. Ooh, that was a good one. All right. All right, back here in the office, wanted to look at the results of the testing that we did, not only indoors at Argyle Country Club, but we also took the Lynx VT irons out on the range over at Argyle because the Mevo tends to pick up the data a little bit better. So we tested the 8 iron, the 6 iron, and the 4 iron, which are the 3 clubs we usually do in an iron test. And then I wanted to compare them to the clubs that I'm gaming this year, which are the Bridgestone JGR HR2 irons. And they're really good. I mean, I hit them very far. I hit the Bridgestones very far. I'm kind of a club better, a club longer with those than my previous irons, and they're meant to be. They're meant to be a game improvement iron. They have a little bit bigger of a profile than the iron I've been playing before, so that's kind of to be expected. But I wanted to compare what I saw in terms of ball speed from the Lynx VT irons to the Bridgestones and just see where they were, trying to take into consideration that the shaft on the Lynx VTs is a KBS 130 gram X versus a 95 gram true temper steel shaft that comes in stiff. So obviously a big difference in weighting there. And if you look at the data and you look at the 8, 6, and 4 iron and compare, generally speaking, they're pretty close. Now with the 8 iron, there is a fairly substantial difference, a handful of miles per hour in terms of ball speed between the Lynx VT and the Bridgestone 8 iron. And I think that's probably to be expected based on how I experienced those 2 clubs. The Bridgestone 8 iron, I can hit anywhere from about 150 to 175 yards, which is way too much of a gap. It's way too much of a range for me to be able to hit an 8 iron, which to me is a scoring club. And then for the Lynx VTs, I was hitting those in the 150 to 165 range, which feels a lot tighter and it feels a lot better. So I lost some ball speed on the average because there was a wider range, and it does seem to be a little bit hotter with the Bridgestone, but I appreciated that there was a smaller profile on the Lynx VT, that I was able to hit the ball the same height, if not a little bit higher, with the Lynx VT, so it would land a little bit softer, which I like, and that it was a tighter range. But then you compare the 6 and the 4 iron, and they're pretty dead on to each other. 6 and 4, maybe 1.5 miles per hour ball speed on the average between those 2 clubs, comparing the 6 irons and the 4 irons together. I thought that was pretty remarkable for a couple of different reasons. Obviously, the big increase in shaft weight, 35 grams, means something, and by the end of the testing, I was pretty tired. I mean, I'm not used to swinging something that heavy throughout my iron set. I mean, In a wedge, sure, yeah, you want something a little bit heavier, but not throughout the bag. So I wasn't expecting that kind of performance. It was hard for me to draw the ball. I like to draw the ball, a little tight draw with my iron shots. It was hard for me to do that. It took a lot of effort to do that with the Lynx VTs. I think over time I would get used to that with the 130 gram shaft. But also if I went into these irons, I would probably drop down into that 100, 110 gram range with a stiff shaft. And I would still probably get very similar results because the ball speed is about the same. I kept the swing speeds about the same. I was able to kind of get the same ball speed out of it, same smash factor. So in terms of performance, it keeps up. These Lynx VT irons, they keep up with some of the longest irons I've ever hit in my entire life, those Bridgestone irons. So kudos to Lynx for making a great product that does really sit well in this category of players distance irons, these hollow body construction irons, meant to look a little bit more like a muscle back, meant to feel a little bit more like a player's iron, but have a lot of explosive distance on it. I don't know where it falls entirely on the whole spectrum of irons, but that it keeps up with these Bridgestones is pretty impressive, and it feels like they're worth taking a look at if you're looking at irons. Now, you may not be able to find Lynx everywhere. Not every fitter is going to have them, but if you're thinking about making an iron purchase, take a look at the Lynx VTs. They're going to be priced pretty well for you. They have a cool finish. They keep up in terms of ball speed, so no reason not to give them a try. So that's it for our test here. Please let us know what you think, either on social media. I'm at Ryan Ballengee, or you can find Golf Newsnet on your favorite social media service at the handle Golf Newsnet. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.